As I record today's video, we are at the start of the lockdown period here in Canada for the coronavirus. We've been sitting at home now for a few days. I don't know when you actually watch this video what the situation in the world will be, but I know that it is going to be very different than what it was, say, just last week. But here in the Dotto household, my wife is a teacher. And it was the start of spring break as we started to shut down for the coronavirus. And Shannon came up to me and said, "Hey, Steve, it looks like Zoom is starting to offer free upgraded service for teachers so that they can continue to educate their students even if we aren't in the classroom." And she said, "Would you mind showing me a little bit about how to use Zoom?" She hasn't used it. I thought, that's a great idea, Shan, but how about if we do a video on how to use Zoom so not just you, but other teachers, and in fact, other people who want to use Zoom for video conferencing can learn at the same time. So that is our goal today. Now, having said that, Zoom is indeed offering upgraded service. Zoom, normally in their free service, has a 40-minute time limit on video conferences where you have more than 3 people on the conference. And then if you pay for the service, you get much upgraded service, and you can have 100 people on for as long as you want with the paid service. But Zoom is lifting that limitation for many jurisdictions. Now, ironically, they haven't lifted it as of yet. As of my moment of recording this video, it hasn't been lifted for Canada. But looks like pretty much everywhere else in the world, Austria, Denmark, France, Ireland, Poland, Romania, South Korea, Japan, United States, they've all been lifted, as well as Greece, Norway, Portugal, Switzerland, Belgium, the Czech Republic. Canada's still not on the list. I don't know what we did to Zoom, but maybe they'll pay attention and they'll make sure they lift it for Canadian teachers as well. Today on Dotto Tech, we're going to be taking a look at Zoom, a great video conferencing tool, how to configure it and how to use it. Steve Dotto here. How the heck you doing this fine day? And as promised, today we're going to be taking a look at Zoom. Now, chances are you've been involved in a video conference at some point in the past. Perhaps it's in Skype, perhaps it was a Google Hangout, you were probably in a Zoom or a GoToMeeting meeting, but most of us have participated in conferences from an attendee point of view, where you simply click on a link, you're brought into a room, you watch, maybe you're able to interact a little bit with chat, but you basically aren't driving the bus. You're a passenger enjoying or learning from the content that's being shared. What I'm going to walk you through today is the process of setting up a video conference for a larger group of people, say a classroom situation where you can have 30 people in the room, and then the tools that you have to administer and to deliver the content for that video conference. We are using Zoom as a platform for it. So once you sign up for Zoom and log into your account, you're brought into a window that looks something like this. It might be a little bit different depending on what you've configured and what you haven't. I use Zoom on a regular basis for supporting my business, so you can see I actually have some planned meetings that are up and coming that I've already scheduled. But I'm going to walk you through the process and the different tools that we have in place. So when you're ready to book a meeting, to plan a meeting, you go into this Zoom conference and you click on Schedule a Meeting. That's the first step that we do. We'll talk through the hardware and technical setup in a few moments, but let's talk about the meeting itself as you schedule a meeting. This brings you into a web interface where you set a topic for the meeting, a title for the meeting. It's going to be meeting number 1. And you can offer description. You can schedule a date and a time. Now, it's going to be based on your local time zone, but when people look at the registration information for that meeting, it will convert it to their local time zone, and if it's being added to their calendar, it'll be converted to their calendar. So there's a lot of automation in the background that will help you with this part of the process. So you select a date and a time for the meeting, and so let's just put this for a week from today at, say, 3 p.m., the duration of the meeting, and if it's a recurring meeting. So if you're a teacher, for example, and you've decided that while we're on this lockdown period, not in class, we're going to meet every morning at 10 a.m. for an hour with the class in a Zoom meeting, you could then set this up as a recurring meeting, and then you can schedule how often you recur, how often the recurrences happen, etc. Now, the benefit of doing this is there's just going to be a single URL, a single login click that your students are going to have, so you don't have to send them a new link every day for them to log into a new meeting. The recurring meeting will use the same login over and over again, so there's a massive amount of convenience to that. That's an important step in dealing with it in this sort of an environment where we might have recurring meetings as opposed to one-off meetings. So you've got that ability to set right here. You can choose whether or not you want to have people register. And if you insist on registration, you can ask them to register once and they can gain all of the occurrences or buy the occurrence. So that's, again, a choice that you have. And the registration link, once you share the registration link, they'll be brought to a page which will then ask for their name and email address. And when they enter their name and email address, effectively registering, they will be then emailed a link or be sent directly to a page that has the link to log in to the conference at that point. So again, the automatic process within Zoom takes care of all of those different aspects for you. You can also set it up to be password protected if you choose, something that I've never used, so I'm not going to speak much to it. Now you're going to choose what happens with the type of guests or the type of participants in the meeting. A regular participant has their video turned off when the meeting starts, but the host has their video turned on. Fairly simple. If you're doing a business meeting where everybody's going to be talking back and forth, you might have everybody's video turned on right at the start. That's your choice. One of the unique aspects of Zoom is it actually works with telephone system as well. So people could actually phone in to a 1-800 number to log into a conference if they don't have robust internet in their area. This might be something that some teachers want to consider, and you can configure that here, whether you want to have computer audio, both computer audio and telephone, or just telephone. Then you set up your meeting options where you can choose whether or not people are already in the room before the host joins, kind of in a waiting room, or kind of in the room itself, so you don't have to bring them in from a waiting room, or if you want them to be in a waiting room. And if that's the case, if you enable waiting rooms, be aware that the host has to monitor the waiting room and then admit people from the waiting room into the actual Zoom room. So that's something that you might not want to have. You might want people, when they log in, to be able to come directly into the meeting. That way you don't have to audit and keep your eye on the waiting room and have people sitting there waiting for the host to admit them. But that's an environment where you control who gets admitted to the meeting if you choose to by enabling the waiting room. And that is the main setup points that you have to create when you establish a meeting. Once you've done this, once you've created all of these different parameters, and oh, by the way, you can also add an alternate host where you can pass off to somebody else. If you're team teaching, if you have a presenter, you can make them the alternate host. But typically speaking, you're not going to require that. You're just going to be the sole host. You're going to launch it. And when you save it, then it becomes a meeting in your roster of meetings that we have here. So if we take a look, here's the summary, and I've got my, what do I call it, meeting number 1, and I've got all of the different assets that I require now to invite people to this meeting and to manage it from an administrative point of view. So let me show you this next screen. You can add these meetings to the different calendar types with a single click of the mouse here, but you also have down here this registration URL. This is really important. This is what you will email to your students or to your people that are going to participate in your meeting. So you click on this and watch what happens. It launches when the meeting is happening. In this case, we set it up as a recurring meeting. So it's happening these days, all at 3 p.m. And the person then enters their name, first name, last name, email address, and they confirm it. Say that they're not a robot. And then when they click to register, they will be sent a login link that's attached to their email address for the registration that they can use to attend all of these meetings. Very slick, very efficient. I really like the registration process. Down here in the bottom of the screen, you can also see how many people have registered and see exactly where you are in the process. You can also set up to email directly to your registrants what email address it's coming from, and you can set up some automated emails to remind them, etc., that the meeting is happening. So all of that functionality is here in the setup. Now, you'll notice down here in the left-hand column that we set up for meetings, Zoom also has a webinar tool, which has some slightly different options, but is effectively the same idea. Zoom also has the ability to record your meetings. Actually, I should show you that. I think I missed mentioning that. If we go back into the new meeting that we just created, there's the recurring meeting, number 1. I'm just going to go into this because I think I didn't. There it is. Down here, I didn't tell you to record the meeting, I didn't tell you that you can record the meeting. If I click here on edit this meeting, edit all of the recurring, all of them. And yes, That's what I was looking for. I can choose to record this meeting automatically. I'm glad I showed this to you because I think this is incredibly valuable, especially for teachers. So I can record it on my local computer, which will create a video file on my local computer, or I can record it into the cloud, which is recording it into Zoom's cloud services, which is going to be useful if you have a small amount of storage on your computer. But either way, you can then share the recording of these meetings with students or with participants that weren't able to attend, or they can review the content from the meeting or from the lesson by clicking on watching one of these replays. That was important. Should have mentioned that earlier. All right, back to the different types of meetings we have. So we have webinars. You can access all of your recordings from this dialog box here, and that's pretty much all you have to do to set up for your Zoom meeting. So once you've set up the parameters for the Zoom meeting, and I encourage you to do a couple of test little meetings just with your own internal circle, maybe with your husband or wife or with a coworker, so that you can get comfortable with the format. Then you're ready to test it out and get ready to do the real thing. So let's show you what happens in a real meeting next. So here is what's going to happen next. I'm going to do a Zoom call with Shannon. She's going to set up her computer downstairs. I'm going to send her an invitation link to join us in a Zoom room, and I'm going to walk her through it, and she will be a participant as a student. Really. Make yourself comfortable. I'm just recording here. You really don't respect the etiquette of the studio, do you? No. All right. Shannon's going to be downstairs. We're going to conference her in, and I'm going to help her discover the wonderful world of Zoom. So my wife is downstairs right now on her computer and connecting with this Zoom call, and I'm going to walk her through using Zoom. And there she is. Hi, Shan.
Hi, Ann.
How are you doing?
I'm okay now that we're online.
You kind of know that, don't you? Because we were just talking 2 seconds ago. So Shannon is just down in our kitchen down below, and she has a little MacBook, and you're just using the webcam that's built into the MacBook, and you've plugged in a set of earbuds so that the audio is a little bit better there. So this is your first time in Zoom, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to walk you through some of the main features. Now, you see the little film strip on the top that has a picture of probably you in it right now. You see that?
Yeah.
So if you have multiple people in the room, you will see all of your students listed across here. And if any of them have their webcam turned on, you will be able to see them here in this film strip. And you actually have control over muting them or unmuting them. Although
I love that feature.
They can unmute themselves or turn on and off their own video as well. So they have some control. But it's important to recognize that when you have a lot of people on board, you have to teach them some etiquette, which is to have their microphones muted. Otherwise, you get a lot of crosstalk happening and you get a lot of noise. As well, it's really preferential to do exactly what you're doing, which is to have earbuds in when you're talking, because the microphone in the computers will pick up the audio from the speakers, and then you'll get the echo and that sort of stuff happening if you're not careful. Now, I've got advanced sound gear up here, which we've invested heavily in, that mitigates that problem for us. But if you were to take out your earbuds down there, we might get some crosstalk from you down there as well, or echo from you. So that's a kind of a technique thing that you can work on.
So Stevie, if I have 27 kids, am I going to see them? It says gallery view. I'll see all of them?
You can switch and you will see many more of them at that point there. They'll be laid out, but you'll never get all 27 on the screen. You won't get that rogues gallery of all of them, but you'll be able to see most of them. And what Zoom does is anybody who starts to speak gets promoted onto the main screen, so you get to see them if you ask them to top, unless you decide to pin your video as the main video. You see what I've got here is you won't be able to see it, but in the viewers will be able to see it. I can pin my video, so my video is always the one that's up, so they can only see me. So you can take over. So that gives you some control over the broadcast environment as you go along. Now, along the bottom of the screen, you'll see some tools, but I've got a lot of tools here, including the ones that I think are most important for teachers, which are screen sharing and a whiteboard tool down here. As well, I'm recording this. One of the very cool aspects of this entire process is if you give a lesson online to your students and say only half of them can make it because of whatever timing, you can record that lesson and then you can upload it to YouTube or some other online service so that they can get access to the lesson later and hear all the questions and see all the assignment. Or if they need to review, they can also watch it for review. So we've got some nice persistence there as a result of that as well. And I'm sure you'll want to critique your own performance as well, will you not?
Probably. Can I edit
Okay.
it?
Now, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to show you how screen sharing works. Now, screen sharing is really flexible within Zoom. When I click on screen sharing, it brings up a dialog box that allows me to choose whether I want to share the screens that I'm looking at myself, or any of the open screens that are on my screen, or indeed even other assets like a whiteboard, which I'll show you in just a moment. But for example, if you had a video that you wanted to play, if you had a browser window open with a YouTube video in it, you could open that window and you could stream that video back out to your entire community. Or I've got a QuickTime player open, or a player window open with one of the videos, which is, I know, one of your favorite videos, which I can share with you right now. Hi, I'm Steve Dotto, a YouTube creator. Now, I wasn't always a YouTube creator. I used to be the host of a TV show. So there we have, and by clicking down here in the bottom of the screen, I can stop screen sharing, and that brings us back. Oh, it's interesting. It left it left it up in the background there. There we go. Okay, I'll minimize that. So that gives you the ability to stream videos through, should you choose. But you could also have a slideshow prepared in Google Slides, which you could have in a browser window, or if you use Keynote or PowerPoint, you could be using those. And so you could be also broadcasting slides to your group as you're delivering your lesson. And that's the way a lot of business presenters certainly do things, is they prepare a slideshow. And then that, by broadcasting the slideshow to the group, it then eliminates the need for you to always be on camera, which a lot of people get a little bit self-conscious about. One of the challenges of this entire environment is you feel like you're always on camera, and a lot of people get a little bit of tunnel vision. You might even be experiencing that right now, being the guest.
Look at myself?
Yeah. Well, you feel like you can't be natural. You can't like move around. You can't, and people will see it if you're looking picking your nails or something like that. So that all of that stuff comes in. So it allows you to be off camera, which is a little bit more relaxing as you're doing things. Let me show you a couple of other aspects. One is, if you look down at the bottom of the window, you can open a chat window, which allows your community, your people to talk back and forth, and they can do private messaging by clicking on it there, or you can message each other. Sorry? Like
notes in class.
It's like passing on notes, except the teacher can see them all.
Oh, I get to see all of them. Okay.
Yeah, you can actually see them all, and but it does allow you to do things like drop URLs or drop links or put in pieces of text that might support.
That stays up as part of the video when I post it?
No, the only thing that will post when you post the video is the actual video window itself. None of the supporting content around is included in the recording that you do in Zoom.
So not even if I were to play a PowerPoint or
anything that you broadcast into the window would so your PowerPoint would, but things like questions that go into the text wouldn't. So this is a great way for you to invite your students to say, if anybody's got a question, let me know in the chat, and then you can go in and you can enable their camera so that they can come on. If you indeed even want to bring them into the call, that's going to be an engagement question that different teachers at different age groups are going to deal with. Also, depending on the environment that the child is consuming it in. Remember, we're using computers right now, but Zoom works terrifically well at all mobile devices as well. So your students could be watching on the phone, they could be watching on an iPad, they could be watching on another tablet. There's a lot of different options for them to be able to consuming it. They don't have to always be on a computer. And so that means that they also don't always necessarily have to have access to a microphone and a camera. They can just watch it as a participant watching without even going on, being seen themselves or heard themselves. But you'll still see them reflected in the film strip in the top.
Okay.
Another thing I wanted to show you is, if we go back into screen sharing again, I like this, although I'm terrible at it. You've got the ability to have a whiteboard. And if I share a whiteboard, we've got then a board that you can type into.
Okay, you're not going to actually write on it, are you?
I am writing on it. Why? You afraid of me writing?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to draw a picture for you.
Please don't.
There it is. I'm going to draw
a self-portrait?
A person. Oh, it's a self-portrait. I better give myself a beard then. How's that?
Beautiful. It's beautiful. Can you do a little shock of hair at the top?
Oh, yeah, just there it is.
Yes.
So that's the basic interaction that you have with your students. You have the ability to have chat. You can share links. They can ask questions. You can bring people into the call or remove them from the call using the film strip. They can come on by audio or video. You have the ability to share anything that you can see on your computer screen. You can share with them. So you can prepare your lessons in advance in Google Slides or any other application. You can broadcast those through, and your audio will be continuing through at the same time. You can record the entire piece, and then you can archive it, you can upload it to YouTube, and you can share it in a variety of ways afterwards. That's really, yeah.
I see the advantages for if I was going to teach a lesson. Right now, my big concern is just interacting with my students so that they feel confident and connected to their community. Is this a good platform for that?
Sure. We use it every day just for conferencing for our team. I mean, you hear me talking to the team all the time as you go around the house, and we use it just as a meeting platform. So we're not actually delivering instruction or anything like that. It's just where we meet. It's our workspace that we meet in. And then even then, occasionally we want to share stuff back and forth, pictures or images or links. And we're able to do that really easily right from within here. So there are other options beyond Zoom. Zoom is going to facilitate classroom, these classroom type activities. But for just simple conversations, Zoom is, if you are using it already, it's a simple tool. But you could also at that point there consider using Skype or FaceTime or Google Hangouts. There's a couple of other different conferencing tools that you could use. So you get the FaceTime one-on-one with the student or a couple-on-one with the student. But the beauty of Zoom is it levels up and it allows you to have these different administrative functions for the classroom and for teaching.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
Good stuff. Well, it's going to be nice to have you around, but I hope your kids aren't too irritating. Shannon's a really good sport, and I thank her so much for helping with this video. And to all of the educators out there, thank you so much for the effort that you're putting in. And I hope you found this video useful as we navigate these uncharted waters that we are going through in the world today. When you watch this video, I have no idea what our personal interaction, what school's going to look like, what work's going to look like. It's going to take us a while to return to some form of normalcy. I can just imagine, but we're blessed to have tools like Zoom and Google Hangouts and Skype that we can still communicate really effectively and maintain a distance. So I'm hoping that you found this little video, this tutorial, both enlightening and encouraging as we reinvent ourselves in this current time. If you have any comments, I would love to see them. We will answer as many as we possibly can. If you've not yet subscribed to this channel, what are you waiting for? Subscribe, make sure you ring that notification bell so you hear when we upload new videos here at Dotto Tech. Thanks so much to Shannon. Until next time, I'm Steve Dotto. Have fun storming the castle.